I've spent a lot of time on this channel recently talking about lies. And for good reason. Not to tilt my own horn too much, but I am a very good liar. But I think that we're past that now. I think it's time we looked at the truth. And that will be the hardest thing of all. So, just a heads up, the last two scripted videos I did, the one about how the police lie to you and the one about how neoliberals will lie to you, both of those are required viewing for this. I'm going to build off of arguments that I made in both of those. If you're new to the channel, which you might be, this is something that I do frequently. So, just, both of them are about 20 minutes long. You can watch them in double time, you won't lose too much. And building off of those points, I think that we can understand, I think that we can all acknowledge as adults that neoliberalism, authoritarian capitalism, emphasizes domination as a manner of success. The most successful people in neoliberalism are the people who are most efficiently and most quickly able to hoard capital. That's your bankers, your corrupt politicians like Vladimir Putin and Boss Daley back when he was still around. That's your lobbyists, that's your Wall Street stockbrokers. This means that people who want to be successful in neoliberalism are encouraged to swindle and take advantage of as many people as they possibly can. You know, Stephen Molyneux has this idea in his head that assholes exist in our society because women keep deciding to father assholes. That's not true. That's not remotely true. We have assholes in our society. We have so many successful assholes in our society because our society glorifies assholes. Those are the people that are the most successful, because those are the people with the tools to be successful. That's how it is. You can't really argue with that. There's an aspect to this, though, that might seem counterintuitive. The people who attempt to be domineering, especially the younger people who are attempting to establish themselves, more often than not, they will fail. And it seems counterintuitive until you realize that there are only so many positions of leadership, only so many political and business appointments that you can make at one time. And really, even creating new positions of leadership or in commerce or what have you wouldn't really solve the problem, because the older positions are the ones that would be more leadery and would pay more. So those are the positions that people want, especially ambitious people. Consequently, the most ambitious people in our society, and the people with the drive and the passion and the ability to succeed, are finding that they're not. They're being failed by neoliberalism. I have this idea, an idea that I've had for a while, that acts of stochastic terror, that stochastic terrorists are trying to engage with neoliberalism on its own terms. They are attempting to domineer, to demonstrate that they have the capacity to be dominating, to take advantage of people, that they don't even see some people as human, because that's what it takes to succeed. And I would contend that the reason that stochastic terror is on the rise is because neoliberalism is failing. Not just failing people who it is typically failed, but failing people who it is typically succeeded for. That is, straight, cisgendered white men, like yours truly. If you engage with the manifestos and other writings of these stochastic terrorists, they don't just think of themselves as being in the right. They assume that other people will find their actions justified, and that they will be vindicated by history. Dylan Roof, for example, still believes that he's going to be pardoned either by President Trump or by a future president who's sympathetic to his cause. Part of this is that I don't feel that the idea that these people are mentally ill explains all of this. Like, I know a lot of people who are mentally ill. I would go so far as to say that I know more people who are mentally ill, even very seriously mentally ill, than I know people who are mentally well. And I don't know anyone who has even considered going through with an act of sarcastic terror. It makes more sense to me that we live in a society, that the society that we're all under the control of, the blighted capitalist hellscape which we all live in, it makes more sense to me that people who live in that find ways to justify these awful things. And these are awful things, and these are wrong things. Just because you can justify something does not make it right. I do not want to give the impression that I am promoting violence in any respect, especially against innocent people. What I am saying is that neoliberalism, authoritarian capitalism, twists the mind. It turns you against yourself. These heinous people, these horrific things done, the people who do them are not just mentally ill. What I'm saying is that they are doing exactly what they have been taught how to do. They are following exactly the script that our society has given them. And that is something that we need to reckon with. And that's the easy one done. So I said a while back, as a joke and as a story, that the United States and Weimar Germany have a lot in common, in that we are both on the precipice of catastrophic disaster. I told that story to emphasize how people can lie to gain a certain sympathy, but the more I think about that specific comparison, the more that I think it rings true. What we can say for sure, right now, is that we are living in a period where neoliberalism is failing. Or at the very least, it is failing all but a handful of people on the top of the pile. I would contend that this is exactly what neoliberalism is supposed to achieve, but I already did that once, don't make me do it again. And in that specific historical context, we might be able to see what comes after neoliberalism. And it's a phrase you might have heard before. Socialism or barbarism. This is not the first time we have seen liberalism as an institution fail. In fact, even the 30s, the lead up to World War II, wouldn't be the first time that we had seen liberalism as an institution fail. The first time we'd seen liberalism fail on an institutional level was the 1900s, during the lead up to World War I. And during that time, we saw the rise of early forms of communism and fascism. Ultimately, historically, fascism ended up winning that battle. And neoliberalism was created specifically to counter threats from both fascism and communism. We need to understand that part of the reason that fascism won that fight both times is because fascism is more appealing to people who live in a liberal society. And we need to understand that part of the reason that fascism won is because it is easier for people who live under a liberal society to understand. And we need to understand that part of the reason that fascism won that fight is because it is easier for liberals to understand. Fascism purports itself to be about how important you are, and that is only a hair's breadth removed from liberalism professing how important the rights of the individual is. And we can observe to this day how difficult it can be to understand foundational ideas of communism for people who've just understood liberalism for their whole lives. We also need to understand that the extant liberal society will support fascism over communism, because the fascism poses less of a threat to it. And liberalism, like any system, seeks to maintain itself. I value the truth. Not facts, not even exactly knowledge, but the truth. And the truth is something that speaks to a person, is something that resonates with their experiences. If you cannot speak the truth to a person, then you will never get them on your side. You will never be able to get through to them. And the truth is, fascism is winning. The fascists are winning. We are way on our back foot. How many openly fascist leaders do we have in power right now? No, better question. How many far-left leaders do we have in power right now? And of those fascist leaders who are in power, how many of those people are making it easier to remove them from power? We need to understand this, because we need to understand the position in history that we are in. All four corners of the globe are on fire. Hundreds of thousands of people are fleeing their homes due to violence, or climate, or drought. The gap between the wealthy and the poor, the gap between the wealthy and literally everyone else, is wider than it has ever been in human history. And in this period, right now, when what is needed more than ever is empathy and compassion and understanding, the fascists are finding themselves controlling the levers of power. And instead of working together to overcome these fascists, people on the left are just at each other's throats all the time. We're too busy attacking ourselves to get anything done. This requires an intervention. This requires several interventions, but I'm only one person. I can only do so much. I spent most of the past year talking about fascism and capitalism and liberalism and how all of these things work to oppress people. And how we can beat them, because we can beat them. But all of that work will have been useless if we can't get together and fight. And we need to fight, because this may be the last chance we have to fight. If we don't win here, if we don't win now, that's it. Game over. End of history. And so now I'm going to focus on the left. I'm going to focus on how we need to improve. I'm going to focus on how we need to change. And I'm going to focus on who it is that's hurting us. That means that everything this year is going to be contentious. Everything this year is going to be a fight. More so than anything I've done before. So, if you're a regular viewer, or if you plan on sticking around, buckle up. It's gonna be a rough ride.